Terminate all 8 by end of day, corporate ordered, even though the allegations were completely false. My team stared at me, terrified. I closed my office door, sat down, and made a decision that would either save us all or terminate all 9 by end of day. Non-negotiable. The email subject line burned into my vision like acid. I stared at the message from Merrick Vale, our chief operating officer, my hands trembling above the keyboard. 9 employees. My entire division. Gone. Through the glass wall of my office, I could see them, the people I'd built this department around. Tess bent over her workstation, calculating environmental metrics for the sustainability project that had just earned us national recognition. Jonas and Ray argued good-naturedly over optimization code that had saved the company $3 million last quarter. Marin was prepping slides for tomorrow's presentation, the one that was supposed to land us a 5-year client contract. Underperforming, the email said. That was a lie. A carefully constructed one. A second email appeared in my inbox, 9 separation packets. Each file included a falsified performance review, fake disciplinary notes, and a digital signature line for me to confirm delivery. The level of detail was chilling. Someone had been building this paper trail for weeks. My office phone buzzed. "Lee," said a sweetly professional voice, "Merrick and I need you in the executive suite. Now." It was Celia, head of HR. When I entered, Merrick didn't even look up from his tablet. Celia smiled tightly, a stack of folders between them. "We need to finalize the timeline and messaging," Merrick said. "These separations will appear performance-based, not layoffs. Legal's nervous about optics." "These reports are fabricated," I said, dropping the packets on the table. "My team exceeded every target this quarter." Merrick finally looked up, eyes flat and cold. "Your loyalty should be to the company, Lee, not your subordinates." "My loyalty is to the truth," I shot back. Celia's smile never faltered. "The decision isn't open for debate. Scripts have been prepared for each meeting." She slid a folder across to me. Inside were 9 identical scripts, each with a different name filled in. "If I refuse?" I asked. Merrick's mouth curved slightly. "Then you'll join them, without severance, without references." The air in the room thickened until I could barely breathe. He was daring me to defy him. Back at my desk, I stared at my team through the glass, 9 bright, loyal faces. People who trusted me. People who thought merit still meant safety. At noon, Tess knocked on my door. "Team lunch?" she asked, smiling. Her smile faltered when she saw my face. "Lee, what's wrong?" I glanced over her shoulder. The rest of the team stood behind her. They looked worried, confused. "Close the door," I said quietly. When it shut, I told them what I could. "Corporate says we missed key performance metrics. They want full revisions by end of day." Jonas frowned. "But we hit every deliverable early." Marin's voice cracked. "We broke every record this quarter." I met their eyes, one by one. "I need until 5 o'clock. Don't talk to anyone about this. Just trust me." After they left, I opened the bottom drawer of my desk and pulled out the black leather notebook I'd been keeping for months, notes on strange directives, missing funds, altered reports. Something deeper was at play. 3 weeks earlier, my team had flagged major flaws in Merrick's global synergy plan, a billion-dollar expansion strategy he'd sold to the board. Our analysis predicted catastrophic failure within 6 months. When I sent him the report, he dismissed it as theoretical pessimism. Now, suddenly, we were underperforming. My phone buzzed. A text from Cora Wren, procurement director at our largest client. "Hearing rumors about restructuring. Are you and your team safe? Call me." My pulse spiked. The timing wasn't coincidence. I looked again at Merrick's email, "Terminate all 9 by end of day," and knew one thing with absolute clarity. If corporate wanted to erase my team quietly, I was going to make damn sure the world heard the noise. And by the time the sun set, someone much higher up than me was going to regret ever pressing send. My name is Lee Calder, and 5 years ago, I was the golden child of Helios Dynamics, one of the fastest-growing sustainability tech firms in the U.S. I'd built my division, strategic integration and systems, from 3 people in a shared cubicle to 9 of the sharpest minds in the company. When I joined, Helios was crumbling under bloated processes and outdated tech. I came from a background in operations psychology. I understood not just systems but people. My first year, I cut waste by 40%. The next, client retention hit record highs. I hired carefully. Quiet geniuses, team players, the kind of people who made work feel like purpose. For a while, we were unstoppable. Then Merrick Vale arrived. He was the board's golden import, a slick, Ivy League COO with a voice like polished steel and a reputation for transformational leadership. Within a month, he reorganized half the upper management. He promised to turn Helios into a global powerhouse. And for a while, he did. Or at least, he made everyone believe he did. His first move was forming an innovation council, stacked with his former colleagues, people who owed him everything. Their projects were flashy, expensive, and reckless. My team was the one forced to make those grand visions actually function. At first, we tried to collaborate, but Merrick didn't want collaboration, he wanted compliance. I'll never forget our first real clash. He just unveiled his global synergy plan, a rapid expansion across 3 continents using untested logistics software and unverified suppliers. He asked for my team's analysis. We ran every model, every variable, and every outcome came back catastrophic. Resource shortages, unrealistic timelines, impossible margins. When I presented the data, he didn't even glance at it. "This stays between us," he said. "The board's already approved it." "With respect," I told him, "you can't approve something that's mathematically impossible." His eyes turned cold. "Your job is execution, not theory. The board doesn't pay you to think beyond your lane." I should have seen it then, the quiet warning behind the words. A week later, I defied him. I presented our findings directly to the board during the quarterly review. For a moment, I thought logic might win. The CFO asked for follow-ups, 2 VPs supported further analysis. But then Merrick smiled that calm, predatory smile and said, "Lee's team sometimes gets lost in hypotheticals. Their projections don't reflect real-world conditions. The plan has been market-tested." That was a lie, but he told it so smoothly the room shifted with him. Within days, every door that had been open to me began to close. Meeting invites stopped arriving. System access was temporarily restricted. Our budgets froze. Then came subtle humiliation. Projects reassigned. Public praise for new directions. My team went from being problem solvers to ghosts no one acknowledged. But the data didn't lie. And I wasn't built to be silent. I started keeping a log, every inconsistency, every suspicious approval. The deeper I dug, the stranger it got. Vendors that didn't exist, payments that bypassed procurement, and reports that contradicted official statements. 3 weeks before the termination order, Tess discovered that one of the approved vendors for the expansion had no physical address, just a P.O. box in Delaware. That same week, Merrick began dropping by our floor unannounced, all smiles, asking vague questions. I should have trusted my instincts then, but I was too focused on protecting the data, too naive to realize he was already building his alibi. So when his email landed that morning, "Terminate all 9 by end of day," I knew this wasn't about performance. It was about silence. And if Merrick Vale thought he could erase 9 people to cover his tracks, he'd picked the wrong woman to underestimate. Because I'd learned something a long time ago, watching my own mother get fired for calling out academic fraud, that loyalty without integrity is just fear in disguise. And I was done being afraid. The morning after the termination order, the air in the office felt electric, the kind of tension that hums beneath polite smiles. I spent the first few hours pretending everything was normal while I tried to piece together how to fight this without getting caught. By noon, my team could sense it too. Conversations stopped when I walked by. HR passed through our floor twice. Security guards lingered near the elevators. Merrick was moving fast. I called Tess into my office under the pretense of reviewing performance data. The moment the door closed, I whispered, "They're building a case. Everything you've worked on, back it up. Quietly." She nodded, fear flickering behind her eyes. Over the next 2 days, my team moved like shadows. Jonas copied source code. Marin downloaded project reports. Ray archived months of client communication. By the 3rd night, we had everything saved on encrypted drives, proof that the performance issues were fabricated. But Merrick wasn't sitting still either. He started a campaign, whispering in executive hallways, planting doubt in board members' ears. We heard rumors that our division was toxic, inefficient, resistant to innovation. Then came the sabotage. Friday morning, Tess's credentials were revoked. Her access to the internal drive disappeared overnight. System maintenance, it claimed. I knew better. At noon, an email from HR landed in my inbox. Performance review follow-up required. Please prepare documentation on all direct reports for executive review. Translation: they're getting ready to fire us officially. I stared at the screen, pulse hammering. I had to move faster. That afternoon, I met with Cora Wren, the procurement director from our largest client, at a coffee shop 2 blocks away. She looked exhausted. I heard from our CEO, she said. Merrick told them your division's being dissolved due to performance issues. He's lying, I said. I can prove it. She studied me for a long moment. You always could, she murmured. Send me what you have, quietly. If what you're saying is true, you won't be fighting this alone. That gave me hope, a sliver of leverage in a company built on image. But that same night, someone broke into our shared project database. Half our records vanished. Logs showed deletion from my own credentials, except I hadn't logged in since 8 p.m. Someone had cloned my access. Monday morning, Merrick summoned me to his office. He was standing by the window, city skyline glowing behind him. Lee, he said in that smooth, empty tone, there are concerns about your team's integrity, missing data, unauthorized file transfers. You understand how serious this looks. You deleted those files yourself, I said evenly. He smiled. You have no proof. He was right, not yet. I've given you chances, he continued, voice hardening. But your insubordination is becoming a liability. If you won't execute orders, I'll find someone who will. I leaned forward, my voice low. You can fire me, Merrick. But if you do, I'll make sure every client, every partner, and every shareholder knows what you've done. I have everything documented. His smile didn't falter. Then I hope you've kept backups. Because by tomorrow morning, your credentials won't exist. That night, my apartment lights flickered on their own. My phone restarted twice. By morning, my company account was locked, my laptop bricked, and my badge deactivated. They weren't just firing me, they were erasing me. When I got to the office, security stopped me at the entrance. Administrative review, the guard said. HR will contact you. But he didn't realize I had one last access point. Jonah's. He'd built half our internal architecture. I texted him a single word. Now. That afternoon, while Merrick stood on stage presenting his global synergy plan at the quarterly meeting, Jonah's triggered the data backup we'd hidden weeks earlier, a parallel archive in an external cloud drive under my name. Every document, every altered file, every fake performance report, preserved and time-stamped. I had the proof. But as I sat in my car watching the clock tick toward the end of the day, one thing still haunted me. Someone on my team had leaked our internal discussions to HR. Someone had given Merrick access to our private drive. And when I finally traced the login metadata that night, my heart sank. The breach had come from inside my team. From Tess. I barely slept that night. I kept staring at the log files on my laptop, the evidence screaming back at me in digital black and white. TSSWBB login at 2:37 a.m. Data transfer to corporate secure server. There was no way around it. My most trusted analyst, the woman I'd mentored, the one who used to bring me coffee on late nights, she was the leak. By 7 a.m., I was parked in the company lot waiting for her. When Tess arrived, she froze the second she saw me. We need to talk, I said. She tried to brush past. Lee, I'm late for. Cut it. You copied our private files to Merrick's server. Why? Her eyes darted around the garage. Not here. We sat in my car, engine off. The silence was suffocating. I didn't have a choice, she whispered. Merrick cornered me last week. He said if I didn't cooperate, he'd terminate my work visa and report me for document falsification. My heart sank. That's insane. You didn't falsify anything. Her voice broke. Remember the early sustainability report we rushed 2 years ago? He found an unsigned data input. He said it was enough to get me blacklisted. I felt sick. He'd found one clerical error and weaponized it. Tessa's hands shook as she spoke. He said he just needed access to the shared drive. He promised he wouldn't use it against anyone. I didn't know what he was doing until it was too late. When the termination order came, I realized. I wanted to believe her. God, I did, but there was something she wasn't saying. Tess, I pressed, what else did he ask you for? Her eyes filled with tears. He wanted the names of anyone who questioned the expansion plan. I gave him the list, Lee. He already knew most of it, but he didn't know about you presenting the report to the board. I didn't think he'd fire us all, I snapped. She flinched. He said it was temporary, that once the dust settled, he'd reassign us under new leadership. He lied to you. I know, she covered her face. He threatened my sister's job too. She works at Helios Asia. He said he could have her contract revoked in a day. For a moment, I just stared at her, torn between anger and pity. Then I said quietly, he's using people like chess pieces, Tess. But now we have leverage, proof of coercion. You're going to help me end him. Her eyes widened. What are you planning? I didn't answer. Because in truth, I didn't know yet. Only that Merrick wasn't just corrupt, he was dangerous. That afternoon, while HR avoided eye contact and security escorted redundant employees out of other departments, I drove to an off-site meeting with Cora Wren. I told her everything, the forged reviews, the data manipulation, the coercion. Cora listened in silence, then said, "You realize this is criminal, right? Securities fraud. Possibly racketeering if he's profiting from these vendors." "Then help me prove it," I said. She hesitated. "If I go to the board, they'll bury it. Merrick's protected. He has investors behind him. People with real power." "Then let's go over them," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "You mean the clients?" "Exactly, the ones holding 70% of Helios's revenue." Her lips curved slightly. "You're playing a dangerous game." "I don't care," I said. "If we're going down, I'm taking him with me." That night, Tess came by my apartment. She looked pale, wrecked. "He knows I talked to you," she said. "He called me into his office. Said if I make one more mistake, he'll ruin you, not me." "He's already trying," I muttered. "We'll see how he handles exposure." But just before she left, Tess said something that made my blood run cold. "Lee, he's not the one pulling the strings." "What are you talking about?" She swallowed hard. "There's someone higher, someone on the board. Merrick's taking orders too." And then she was gone. I sat there frozen long after the door closed, the weight of it crashing down. If Tess was right, then Merrick wasn't the final boss in this nightmare, just the middleman. And whoever sat above him had just declared war on the wrong woman. By dawn, I had a plan, and it wasn't subtle. Subtlety was how Merrick had gotten away with this for so long. I needed something explosive, something public, something they couldn't smother with PR statements or internal reviews. The key was exposure, not just to the board but to the people who mattered most, the clients who kept Helios alive. I spent the morning in my apartment with blackout curtains drawn, laptop open, heart pounding, as I went through every document my team had salvaged. Tess was there too, eyes red, silent but steady. Jonah's joined through encrypted video. "We've restored almost everything. Financial transfers, vendor chains, even internal Slack messages." "Good," I said. "We need to connect the dots, find proof that Merrick's fake expansion plan is funding his personal shell companies." Ray chimed in from his end. "Already working on it. The offshore vendor, Skyvale Systems, I traced it to a holding firm registered in the Caymans. The listed contact, a guy named Gerald Cresswell." The name hit me like a slap. Gerald Cresswell, one of Helios's board members. That was it. Tess had been right. Merrick wasn't acting alone. He was protecting someone sitting at the top. I stared at the spreadsheet glowing on my screen, payments looping from Helios corporate accounts to Skyvale, then siphoned through 3 intermediaries. It wasn't just fraud, it was money laundering. The weight of it made my stomach twist. We weren't just dealing with corporate politics anymore. We were exposing a federal crime. At 3 p.m., I called Cora. "I need a favor," I said. "I want our top clients in one room Friday, 4 p.m. Tell them it's a strategic review with Merrick." "You're planning to ambush him," she said flatly. "Not just him," I replied. "Cresswell too." There was a pause. "You're playing with fire, Lee." "Then I'll burn carefully," I said. After the call, I gathered what was left of my team at Bryn's apartment, a neutral ground. Everyone looked exhausted but wired, fueled by anger and caffeine. I laid it out clearly. "We have 2 days. We'll compile a full presentation, one that contrasts the official expansion numbers with the real data. The moment Merrick starts his speech, we'll hijack the screen feed. Cora's bringing the clients. Once it's public, they can't bury it." Marin frowned. "What if they shut off our access?" "They will," Jonas said, "which is why I've set up a redundancy." 3 feeds, 1 local, 1 cloud, 1 offsite mirror. If they cut one, 2 more go live. Lyall grinned grimly. You're planning a corporate coup. Call it justice, I said. The room was quiet for a long time. Then Tess whispered, he'll come after us. I know, I said, but this time we hit first. That night, we divided tasks, Tess compiling logs of coercion, Jonah's tracking transactions, Ray building visualizations. I drafted the closing argument, a simple, brutal truth. You can't call it performance failure when the failure was designed. It was nearly 2 a.m. when I finally leaned back in my chair, exhausted. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. You're making a mistake, Lee. No signature. Another text followed. Friday won't go the way you think. My hands went cold. I stared at the screen, realizing this wasn't Merrick. He'd never warned me. This was someone else. Someone watching us closely. I looked at Tess. You said he's not the one in charge. Who is? Her eyes darted away. Lee, there's something I didn't tell you. I waited. Merrick answers to Cresswell, but Cresswell answers to someone else. Someone who isn't even on paper. They call him the architect. The architect, she nodded. He's the real reason the global synergy plan exists. The expansion's a front not for growth, but for diversion. Money laundering through environmental contracts. My heart slammed against my ribs. Do you know who he is? Tess hesitated, then whispered a name that made every hair on my body stand on end. It wasn't a board member. It wasn't a politician. It was the CEO himself, Darian Holt. When Tess said the name Darian Holt, the room went dead silent. Our CEO, the face of Helios. The man who'd built the company from a regional firm into a global empire, and apparently into a money-laundering machine. At first, I didn't believe her. That's impossible. Holt's practically worshipped by the board. Tess swallowed hard. He's the one who recruited Merrick. They worked together at Novatrax before Helios. Same pattern there, rapid expansion, shell vendors, sudden executive resignations. Holt disappeared right before the audit. I stared at her. You're telling me this has happened before? 3 times, Jonas said quietly from his screen. I cross-checked company registrations. Each innovation project was just a funnel. Different names, same offshore accounts. I felt a slow, sinking dread. We weren't exposing a single corrupt executive. We were threatening a multi-company, multi-billion-dollar operation. I looked at the others. We're not just whistleblowers anymore. We're witnesses. Targets, Marin corrected softly. That night, my paranoia hit a new level. A car idled too long outside my apartment. My email pinged with failed login attempts. I started sleeping with my phone recording audio on the nightstand. Then, on Thursday morning, 1 day before the meeting, Tess didn't show up for our prep call. I texted her. No response. Called her. Straight to voicemail. Jonas checked her employee ID status, revoked. She's gone, he said flatly. System lists her as terminated due to misconduct. I froze. They found out. I tried calling again. Nothing. I was halfway out the door when my phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. Don't look for her, you're next. I felt ice crawl up my spine. That afternoon, I got a call from HR. Celia's sugary tone made my stomach twist. Lee, the board has requested your attendance at a confidential review tomorrow morning before the quarterly meeting. They were planning to take me out before I could act. I needed to move the timeline up. At midnight, my apartment became our war room again. I told the team, we go public tomorrow morning, not afternoon. Jonas, you trigger the live feed remotely. Ray, you stream it to client networks. Cora will make sure it lands on the board's agenda. Once it's live, they can't bury it. What about Tess? Marin asked quietly. She's gone, I said, forcing my voice not to shake. We finish what she started. But I couldn't stop thinking about her, the fear in her eyes, the way she'd said Merrick wasn't the top of the chain. At 3:12 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Tess's number, 1 line. Don't trust Cora. I sat upright, pulse racing. I reread it 5 times. Cora, the only person outside the company who'd helped us. Before I could respond, another text arrived, this one from Cora herself. Final confirmations in. All clients ready. Meeting at 9, be early. I stared at the 2 messages, my mind spinning. If Tess was right, then Cora wasn't an ally, she was bait. I opened my encrypted drive and cross-referenced her communications. And there it was, a hidden data ping in her earlier email. routed through a proxy address linked to Holt's executive network. Cora Wren had been feeding him our entire plan. I felt my throat close. Everything, the client meeting, the timing, the exposure, it had all been a setup. We were walking into a trap. I texted Jonas immediately. Shut it all down. No meeting, Holt knows. Before he could reply, my screen went black. Then the lights in my apartment cut out. Outside, tires screeched. A knock thundered at my door. Lee Calder, a voice called through the wood. Corporate security. We need you to come with us. I backed away slowly, every instinct screaming. When I didn't answer, the knocking turned into pounding. I bolted for the fire escape. By the time I reached my car, my phone buzzed again, one unread message from Jonas. They took Tess to silence her. Don't come here, we've got another plan. Check the backup. Attached was a file. I opened it. Inside was a single audio clip, a recorded call between Merrick Vale and Darian Holt. And in it, the CEO's voice was calm, deliberate, and terrifyingly casual as he said, "End her career, Merrick. If she resists, end her for real." I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car outside the riverfront, listening to that recording on repeat, Holt's voice, smooth and calm as he ordered Merrick to destroy me. It wasn't rage. It was routine. The more I listened, the more something inside me broke. It wasn't just corporate politics. This was calculated evil done by men who saw people as tools, and when the tools stopped serving, they smashed them. By morning, I knew I had to understand why. Not just what they did, but why it had to be us. Jonas called from a burner phone at sunrise. We pulled metadata from the audio. It's real, time-stamped, Holt's office line. Then we use it, I said. Not yet, Jonas warned. There's something else you need to see first. He sent a file, an internal memo from 6 months ago, signed by Darian Holt himself. The subject line read, Project Phoenix Confidential Executive Directive. I opened it, my hands shaking. The memo outlined a plan to consolidate departments ahead of the global expansion, specifically those involved in systems auditing and performance validation. My division was listed first. Under rationale, a single sentence chilled me. Remove units with excessive internal transparency, potential impediments to discretionary resource allocation. I read it 3 times before the words sank in. We weren't fired for underperforming. We were fired because we knew too much. The expansion strategy wasn't just a money laundering pipeline, it was a scapegoat generator. Holt and the board had been creating paper failures, ineffective divisions, budget overruns, operational losses, to justify transferring funds into their offshore entities under the guise of restructuring. They used people's livelihoods as camouflage. And Merrick, he wasn't the mastermind. He was the enforcer, the cleanup man, the one who made corruption look like reorganization. Jonas's voice came through the line, quiet but furious. Lee, they've done this before. Different companies. Always the same pattern, an innovation plan, an internal purge, then a bankruptcy. They strip the assets, sell the shell, and start again somewhere else. How many? I whispered. 4, he said. 4 companies, hundreds of people, maybe thousands. The realization hit like a blow. This wasn't just greed. It was a system. A cycle of calculated destruction that turned human careers into balance sheet cover. And Helios was next. At 9:30 am, my phone buzzed, an incoming message from Cora. You missed your session with the board. They're calling an emergency hearing at 11. If you want to defend yourself, this is your chance. Her tone sounded almost taunting. I texted back, see you there. Jonas panicked. Lee, don't, it's a trap. I know, I said. But I'm not walking in there to defend myself. The rage inside me wasn't hot anymore. It was cold, focused, controlled. At 10:15, I drove to headquarters and parked underground. My old security badge was dead, but I didn't need it. Jonas had already breached the visitor system. My name was listed under Client Observer. I walked through those glass doors one last time, past people who stared but said nothing. Maybe they already knew what was about to happen. On the top floor, the boardroom was buzzing, executives, lawyers, security guards. Merrick stood near the window, arms crossed, pretending to be calm. Holt sat at the head of the table, immaculate as always, sipping espresso like he owned gravity itself. He didn't even look surprised to see me. Miss Calder, he said, setting down his cup. You're not on the schedule. Neither was the termination order, I replied. He smiled faintly. You've caused quite a mess. I placed my phone on the table, thumb hovering over the play icon. Not yet. But I'm about to. The room went still. Merrick's jaw tightened. Holt's eyes narrowed. You think you understand this company, Holt said softly. You don't. You never did. You think you're some kind of hero exposing corruption. You're just a line item, Miss Calder, a replaceable variable. And when variables complicate the equation, you delete them, I finished for him. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You were too good at your job, Lee. You and your team saw everything, the numbers, the transfers, the ghosts in the system. That's why you had to go. We built a machine that feeds itself, and people like you slow it down. He leaned forward, voice lowering. The system doesn't reward honesty, it rewards survival. I stared at him, the truth settling like lead. Holt didn't see himself as corrupt, he saw himself as efficient. Destroying lives wasn't collateral damage, it was optimization. He wasn't hiding what he did, he believed in it. And that was the moment I stopped fearing him. Because when a man thinks he's untouchable, he stops watching his blind spots. I looked him dead in the eye and said quietly, "Then you're about to learn what inefficiency really costs." Holt leaned back, smug and composed, as if I were a problem already solved. Merrick hovered behind him like a shadow that had lost its purpose. The boardroom was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside the glass walls. You should have stayed quiet, Holt said softly. You'd still have a job. A reputation. I smiled, small, deliberate. You're right, I lost both, but you're about to lose everything else. He tilted his head. Is that a threat? No, I said, sliding my phone across the table. It's a live feed. Merrick stepped forward, but I was faster. I pressed play. Holt's voice filled the room. End her career, Merrick. If she resists, end her for real. The blood drained from Celia's face. The CFO froze mid-breath. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." The playback wasn't just audio. Jonas had embedded it into a live stream, transmitting directly to Helios's internal network and every client partner connected to the quarterly review. Dozens of faces blinked to life on the boardroom screen, executives, partners, procurement directors. And right in the center of the feed was Cora Wren, her expression unreadable. Holt's mask cracked. What is this? This, I said, is what happens when you forget to vet your allies. Cora doesn't work for you anymore, she works for them. Cora leaned forward in her feed. Mr. Holt, on behalf of Helios's corporate clients, we are suspending all contracts pending investigation into this matter. Holt's composure vanished. You think this will stick? I own this company. I met his eyes. Not anymore. At that cue, Jonas triggered the second upload, the full audit. Fake vendors, payment loops, offshore accounts. Every transaction tied to Holt, Merrick, and board member Gerald Cresswell. Each file timestamped, notarized, mirrored on public cloud drives, and automatically forwarded to the SEC, Department of Justice, and 3 national media outlets. Within seconds, every phone in the room began to vibrate. News alerts, emails, calls. Cresswell bolted for the door, security stopped him. Merrick slumped in his chair, eyes wide, muttering, We were careful, we were careful." Holt's calm shattered into something primal. "You don't understand who you're dealing with, Lee. You've destroyed your career. You'll never work again." I stood, gathering my things. "Maybe, but at least I'll still have a name." He lunged across the table, but security pulled him back. The board chair's voice was a quiet quake. "Mr. Holt, you're hereby relieved of duty pending investigation." By the time I stepped into the elevator, the Helios logo behind me already felt smaller. Outside, the morning light hit different. Brighter, colder, real. 2 weeks later, Holt resigned for personal reasons. Merrick vanished from LinkedIn and corporate registries. Cresswell's assets were frozen. The SEC confirmed a full-scale investigation. My team was reinstated, unofficially heroes. Jonas was offered his own department. Marin joined a nonprofit clean energy group. Tess, she resurfaced quietly in London, safe under a new name. As for me, I didn't go back. I'd seen what the inside of power looked like, and I wasn't going to build another version of it. Instead, I started a consultancy that specialized in whistleblower protection and data integrity. 6 months later, I got an anonymous envelope in the mail. No note, just a single USB drive. I plugged it in. Inside was a 5-second clip of Holt, grainy, looking straight at the camera. His voice was calm again. "You didn't destroy the machine, Lee. You just made it evolve." I stared at the screen for a long time before I ejected the drive and dropped it into the fireproof bin. Maybe, I whispered. But at least now, it knows I bite back. The flames swallowed it whole. And for the first time in months, I felt something close to peace.